Chapter 24, Birds of Sadness. From the Badlands we drove to Wall, South Dakota, to see the spectacular world-famous Wall Drug, a gall-dang tourist trap drugstore, Graham said. Hell's bells. Usually when Graham's cussed like this, Graham threatened to go back to the Eggman. I don't know that whole story, just that one time when Graham was cussing up a storm, Graham ran off with the man who regularly bought great quantities of eggs from Gramps. Graham stayed with the Eggman for 3 days and 3 nights until Gramps came to get her and promised he wouldn't swear any more. I once asked Graham if she would really go back to the Eggman if Gramps cussed too much. She said, "Don't tell your grandfather, but I don't mind a few hells and damns. Besides, that Eggman snored to beat the band." "So you didn't leave Gramps just because of the cussing?" "Salamanca, I don't even remember why I did that. Just foolish, I guess. Sometimes you know in your heart you love someone, but you have to go away before your head can figure it out." In Wall Drug, for $5, you could buy a rock on which someone had painted, "Authentic Rock from Badlands." For $3, you could buy a yellow feather, an official souvenir of the Badlands. When Gramps picked up a peace pipe, the handle fell off. "Load of rubbish," he said. That night we stayed at a motel outside of Wall. They had one room left, with only one bed in it, but Gramps was tired, so he said it would do. The bed was a king-size waterbed. "Gol dang," Gramps said. "Looky here. Looky there." When he pressed his hand down on it, it gurgled. "Looks like we'll all have to float on this raft together tonight." Graham flopped down on the bed and started giggling. "Huzz, huzz," she said in a raspy voice. She rolled into the middle. "Huzz, huzz." I lay down next to her, and Gramps tentatively sat down on the other side. "Whoa," he said. "I do believe this thing's alive." The 3 of us lay there sloshing around as Gramps turned this way and that. "Gol darn," he said. Tears were streaming down Graham's face. She was giggling so hard. Gramps said, "Well, this ain't our marriage bed." That night I dreamed that I was floating down a river on a raft with my mother. We were lying on our backs looking up at the high sky. The sky moved closer and closer to us. There was a sudden popping sound, and then we were up in the sky. Mama looked all around and said, "We can't be dead. We were alive just a minute ago." In the morning we set out for the Black Hills and Mount Rushmore, which were not too far away. We expected to be there by lunchtime. No sooner were we in the car than Gramps said, "So what happened to Peavy's mother, and did Peavy get any more of those messages?" "I hope everything turned out all right," Gramps said. "I'm a little worried about Peavy." On the day after Phoebe showed her father the suspicious spots and the unidentifiable hair strands, another message appeared. "You can't keep the birds of sadness from flying over your head, but you can keep them from nesting in your hair." Phoebe brought the message to school to show me. "The lunatic again," she said. "If he has already kidnapped your mother, why would he still be leaving messages?" "They're clues," she said. At school, people kept asking Phoebe about her mother's business trip to London. She tried to ignore them, but it wasn't always possible. She had to answer some of the time. Mary Lou brought in a book about England, which proved that she was right about Covent Garden. "See," she said, "it's Covent, not convent." Christy was examining something on the ceiling. "Oh, that Covent Garden. I didn't mean that one. There's also a Convent Garden." Mary Lou jabbed at the book. "There is not. Look here." Christy momentarily glanced at the page and shrugged. "That is not the one to which I was referring." Mary Lou slammed the book closed and asked Phoebe if she had heard from her mother yet. Phoebe said. "You did? Where is she staying? The Hilton?" Phoebe said. "Really? The Hilton? Wow." Megan asked Phoebe what sights her mother had seen. Phoebe said, "Oh, Buckingham Palace." Of course, Megan nodded knowingly. "And Big Ben?" "Naturally." And Phoebe was struggling a bit. "Shakespeare's birthplace?" "But that's in Stratford," Megan said. "Stratford-on-Avon. I thought you said your mother was in London." "Stratford is miles away. Did she go on a day trip or something?" "Yes, that's what she did. She went on a day trip." Phoebe couldn't help it. She looked as if a whole family of birds of sadness were nesting in her hair. I think that's what she most wanted to say was, "No, she isn't in London. She disappeared. She's been kidnapped. She might be dead." It was like that all day. By English class, her mother had not only been on a day trip to Stratford, but She had also managed to visit Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, and had had a lovely tour on a hovercraft. My, Beth Ann said, your mother sure has been busy. Christy was cowering in a corner. It's a wasp, Sal. Get it. Kill it. As I ushered the wasp to an open window, Mr. Berkway asked Ben to begin his Prometheus report. Ben had to sit at Mr. Berkway's desk, facing the entire class. He could not stare down at his notes because Mr. Berkway kept saying, eye contact, which meant Ben had to look everyone directly in their eyeballs. It was part of being a good speaker, Mr. Berkway said. Ben was nervous. He explained that Prometheus stole fire from the sun and gave it to man. Zeus, the chief god, was angry at man and at Prometheus for taking some of his precious sun. As punishment, Zeus sent Pandora, a woman, to man. Ben did not explain why this was a punishment. Then Zeus chained Prometheus to a rock and sent vultures down to eat Prometheus's liver. In Ben's nervousness, he mispronounced Prometheus, so what he actually said was that Zeus sent vultures down to eat Porpoise's liver. I tried to talk to Ben after class ended, but when I tapped his arm, he pulled it away as if my fingers were electric prongs. Phoebe said, it's the vultures of nervousness zooming around his head. Mary Lou invited both me and Phoebe to dinner that night. When Phoebe started to hedge around, Mary Lou said, your mother's in London anyway. Your father won't mind if you come over. Phoebe was trying madly to think of excuses. I could tell, but in the end she agreed. My father, when I phoned him, did not seem to mind. I knew he wouldn't. All he said was, that will be nice for you, Sal. Maybe I'll go eat over at Margaret's.